Did you first grow curious about the paranormal? Dare you dig deeper? You are listening to House of Asher.
And hello, everybody. I am your host, Steve Asher. You are listening to House of Asher, the most inconsistent podcast in the world right now. Just lots of different stuff going on, but you know what's great is we're doing a show today, so deal with it. Sorry. Anyway, lots of stuff's going on. It is springtime in Kentucky, which means everything from near snow to hail to sunny days to locusts to all kinds of weird stuff. Don't let me forget to bring up a weird Bigfoot thing that happened to me last night. But anyway, what we're going to be doing, we're going to be talking to our guest in here in just a bit. A lady who has had some really weird, freaky experiences. And the more I talk to her, the more I'm like, you need to be on the show and touch base. And I've actually had this lady do some voiceover work on some of my intros and stuff. So you may be hearing some new intros or breaks on that. This lady I know from different type of work. She's generally does a lot in the paranormal, so she will be using the name Miss Neecee today. So let's welcome Miss Neecee to the show. Hey Neecee, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm doing all right.
I'm doing a golf clap, if you can't hear that. Awesome. So just make sure to speak up, use your big girl voice, and you'll be all right.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So a little bit of background on yourself for the people who aren't that familiar with you, because like I said, I've never discussed you on the radio as of yet. Give us a little bit of background on where you are from and what all kind of got you into stuff like the paranormal and whatnot.
Okay, well, I was born in Kentucky and raised in Chicago, suburb of Chicago. And I didn't really get introduced into the paranormal as I had an experience when I was around 2 or 3 years old.
Okay. That's the way it happens with a lot of people is that, you don't usually seek out the paranormal. The paranormal seeks you out. And I had similar sort of stuff like that. Could you want to discuss the experience you had when you were a young kid?
Sure. I remember it very well. And my parents were gone. My sister was babysitting. She was trying to make potato chips. I was on the counter next to the stove.
Potato chips are awesome.
Yes, they are. The feeling of electricity in the air was almost static, almost like you could hear it. And it just kept getting stronger and stronger. And one of my dad's shoes picked up, moved about 2 inches to the right. He had his shoes set side by side next to the wall, and they were brown. One of them picked up, moved to the right, and set back down again. Just the toe of it. And I screamed. My sister told me that I was having a nightmare, and that's when I learned that nobody was going to listen to me. That it was not something I should talk about.
Now, was this something that repeated? I mean, you're 2 years old, so you're not going to go, let me crack open the scientific method and you feel it wasn't a mouse. You feel it wasn't any other option that it just, did it kind of boop, boop, slide, or did it like pick up?
No.
And then
the shoes were sitting side by side. It lifted, moved over, and set back down.
So like a up, over, down.
Yes.
Oh, that's jacked up. Now was it just these shoes, or was it other incidences like that?
After the shoes, I started seeing, and I would say they were shadow, like mice in the basement. I know it sounds weird, but we had just painted the floor, so there was no mouse footprints on wet paint. It was interesting.
Well, let me ask you. The reason I'm jumping in is because when I was a kid, when I lived in downtown or out on the outskirts of Princeton, Kentucky, I would see something about mouse size, but it would go along the upper corners of the room. Was yours on the floor or was yours on the wall?
It was on the floor. And it went from the bottom of the stairs over to the door that led to the outside.
Is that the only place you've seen it?
It was usually at the bottom of the stairs, and it would run in different directions. I've seen it about 3 times.
Did this happen at like certain times a day? You know, you always hear people talking about like, was it in the witching hour, 12 to 3, or was it midday?
I would say those were daytime. When the shoes moved was nighttime. This was all in the same house.
Now, was there any history to the house that you know of that was paranormal?
I don't even know the address to the house. It was just a house I grew up in.
I'd be curious if you can get a hold of some of your brothers or sisters and ask them about that.
Okay.
So, what was your next kind of weird experience that you had after that?
For a while, there was a lot going on with the family, and we got split up, so I didn't see anything for a long time after that. One of the times when we had a family visit, my brothers and sisters were over. We were all up in my room watching my television, and I saw the shape of a rat on my desk, and it wasn't small. It was about 7 or 8 inches.
Like a Chicago rat.
Like a Chicago rat type.
Like a wharf rat, like a big...
Yeah, like...
cat-sized rat.
And the shape, not a nice rat. Just...
It felt malevolent.
Yeah. And I looked over at it. It wasn't there. So I looked back at the TV, and in the corner of my eye, I could still see it. It was kind of like a bubble. The bubble where the outside is shadow, and it goes in toward the center, and it's clear. And I remember it looked right at me and ran across the papers that I had, which was homework. It was on my desk, and disappeared. And I actually did ask my brother if he'd seen it, kind of like pulled him to the side. He did not.
No, was this at the same location?
No, this was a different house.
So you're having different experiences in different locations. So are you thinking the places were haunted? Or do you think, I don't want to say that you were haunted, but do you think that did you feel that you registered with these type of things? Or do you just feel you can see them? Or what?
I do feel like I can see them, and that no matter where I go, pretty much I've seen things happen. The only 2 places I haven't really seen things happen was in the emergency home and in the first foster home.
Okay, so but that's good, because it's not like you're seeing spirits and ghosts and weird things everywhere, because that might be a little bit much.
No, they're not everywhere. Just most places I've been.
Okay. There was one place that I knew that you were working on, and you had told me about something that was pretty damn freaky. Do you want to get into that a little bit?
Yeah, it was a really stormy night, and I was on the phone.
Hold up just a second. Sorry, that's a thunderclap. Sorry, set the mood. Go ahead.
Okay. I was on the phone with my boyfriend for a little bit, and I got off the phone. I was looking for something on the desk. I don't even remember what it was. And I was plugging up the lamp to find whatever it was I was looking for. Like I said, I've forgotten. And I turned back to the desk after getting up from plugging it in the lamp. And to my left elbow, there was a little girl. Now, I have neighbors, and there's about a 10-year-old little girl over there, and I actually thought it was her. It startled me so bad. I saw this little girl, and then I realized it wasn't her, and she was peering around, looking at me like, "Who are you?"
Well, did she look like the little neighbor girl? Can you kind of describe, kind of what she looked like? Was she solid? blonde hair, long hair,
Yeah,
no hair, dress.
I've never actually seen a ghost in color until this one.
So,
She had
so all your ghosts were like black, kind of like washed out images.
one of them was white, and it was taller than me, and it was coming at me with its mouth hung down low on its chest. It was gross.
Oh, the hell no. Jesus Christ, you're
It was
scary.
coming right at me, and I tried to ignore it, but it didn't go away. It kept coming, so I moved. I was like, no, you're not going through me. Sorry.
Okay.
But the little girl, she had like dishwater blonde hair, and it was down, and like half of it was wet. Like she'd been in water. She had a yellow shirt, like white flowers on her shirt, and she had this long blue skirt. She was barefoot.
Like long, like to the ankles, like almost like holiness looking.
To the lower calves.
Okay. Almost like a sundress.
Yes, but more old fashioned.
Okay.
I guess Dust Bowl era, because I was kind of looking up what era her clothes might have indicated from what time she was in.
Mm-hmm.
I know that sounds odd. It's just my curiosity.
No,
Scratch.
that's how you can kind of verify what time period you think they're from. I mean, unless this kid was like, whatever, a steampunk or something. I mean, and dressed in like a certain type style or something. And I mean, it sounds like it was just a kind of a messed up sounding kid that was there. But
right.
What else was going on with anything?
Well, I got a feeling of curiosity from her, and like she was mad that she was dead, but not mad at me, just and angry that she wasn't alive.
Okay, so dishwater blonde hair, kind of wet, yellow blue dress.
Yes.
Was there any other features that would stand out?
Yes, her right jaw hung down a little bit, like crooked.
Like a deformity, or like her jaws were fractured?
I couldn't quite tell that. It was just different. The left side of her face was fine. It was the right side that the jaw hung down.
That's weird. And that's the only time you've seen this kid. I mean,
Yeah.
did you definitely get a feeling that was a kid? Did you get a feeling that was something? You said you didn't feel like it was malevolent. You was just pissed off because it was like, what's the deal? What did it feel like? It couldn't talk to anybody? Was it one of those type of deals, or?
Yeah. It sounds weird, but except for one ghost, they never talk.
So you're going on that whole the dead do not speak, or is that just what you found?
Unless the one that did speak was residual and repeating.
Well, how often have you seen stuff like that?
Oh, quite a few times in my life.
Well, do you feel you're a sensitive? Do you feel
I do feel that they get drawn to me because they, like talking about it now, it opens me up to be noticed by them.
So we're going to have one show up during the show?
I hope not.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm always say, if I do a haunt, or something, just don't appear as anything frightening. You have no permission to touch me, to try to possess me, do anything like that. And again, like in the stuff I write in my books, I don't say a ghost is a spirit, or a ghost is, I don't know what it is. It could be an interdimensional being. It could be a remnant of a memory. It could be something in our psyche that's producing something that we're visually seeing. I don't know, but so I don't know. And you've not seen this kid again?
No, it was just a very, very strong electrical storm outside, and that was the only time I saw her. She startled me so much, I actually drew in my left elbow because I thought it was the girl next door, and I thought I was going to hit her with my elbow.
Wow.
She was that close.
Okay. You think she freaked out and thought she's going to elbow me? She took off or something?
No, I think she realized that I full on noticed her, and she just poof disappeared. Just because I gasped in startled shock, a little fear, because I realized it wasn't the girl next door.
Well, I mean, and who knows? Maybe that's the push it needed to go ahead and whatever cross over or come to grips with what's going on, and I don't know.
I honestly get the feeling that she didn't mean to scare me.
Well, that's good, because I remember you were saying at that property you had like a couple new kind of antiques, and I remember when one of them, like, I don't know if any of you guys have seen like the movie Oculus, that huge frickin' mirror. I walked in and I was like, that's new. I said, what's up with the creepy mirror? And you're like, oh no, it's pretty, it's beautiful. And I'm like, uh-huh. And then you told me that, and I was like, was this around the same time? Was it pretty close to when you got that mirror?
It was a few days after I got the mirror.
Dun dun. There you go, folks. Mystery solved. Possessed items. You gotta love them. I don't know if it's a possessed item or not, but now is this something that kind of runs in your family?
Absolutely. Mom has seen spirits, ghosts, whatever you want to call them. My brother, my sister, she doesn't really believe in ghosts, but she had something happen to her. I think it was right after I was born, although it might have been right before.
Do you want to elaborate on any of that?
You eventually talk to her, but yes. And I think it was right after I was born. It was, I guess, another stormy night. It was just, this is you gotta understand, passed down to me.
No, this is Kentucky or is this Chicago?
I would say Illinois.
Okay.
Somewhere in Illinois. And it was a camper. I was still in diapers. I do not remember any of this. My sister has told me, my mom had told me before she passed away.
Okay. One thing I did notice is that you had tons of rocks and quartz crystals and all the kind of, I kind of say it's half hippy dippy, half new agey stuff. And did you had that at the house when you saw what you saw?
Yes, I had brought those to the house a few days before I'd seen her.
Okay. And like I said, this is Western Kentucky, so there's, a car system all under here, and it's limestone, and it's got water going through it. And so then you have crystals in a house.
Quartz crystals.
Right. And you've been doing some work to the house, so it's that old chestnut, young woman moves into a home, begins doing this and that, and then strange things occur. Now, if I'm not mistaken, didn't you find out something weird about the house? Like the house was not always here?
Yeah, it had been moved. It was on the same property, but it moved from further back up to the current location a while back.
And you never found out why they moved it?
No.
I wonder why that was. That's weird. Unless maybe they put the road out in front of the house and they wanted it maybe closer to the road.
Maybe.
Or maybe something happened back there. I don't know.
Well, from what I understand, there is a cave system back there, and some of it is falling down into it.
Really? Now, are you talking about where the sinkhole spots are back there?
Yes.
Cool. Sinkhole ghosts. You gotta love them. Okay, so again, we'll get back to the quartz thing. What is that? I know you're kind of into some of the magic elements of stuff and all that, right?
I am. I would like to learn Wicca. I really know nothing about it as of right now. I'm also native, so I want to learn the herbs that are, native to this land and their uses, medicinal and otherwise, and just be more natural with what's around me.
Well, we have friends of the show like Robin Moonshadow, and who does a lot with like cryptids and things like that. She's native, and also our friend Solaris Blue Raven, who's involved with kind of Wiccan magic and things like that. And I mean, it just depends on what direction you got, because we've actually had a lot of different connections. Everybody from a high priest of the Satanic Church to a vampire queen of down in New Orleans, or New Orleans, as I guess should say properly. So I mean, we have a lot of different contacts that we can kind of put you in touch with. Now, what's something that you do? Like I know it looks like you'd had like gear to make. I don't know if it was jewelry or some sort of art with stones. What's up with that?
Yes, I wire wrap these stones and make them into pendants for necklaces. I've been doing it for a couple of years, and the better I get, the more quality the necklace it is. I started out making them and selling them for $12 a piece.
Well, I mean, what I do know is that, like a lot of times, say if back when people hand built their homes, a lot of times the places that would have more activity is the ones that people poured their love and their, a lot of times a spell is only as good as your intent and your focus. So you pour, love into a spell or into an object or whatever. It's ritual. Everything's ritual. It doesn't matter if you're making a really good meal for somebody. You ever heard somebody go, you could really taste the love, the time they put into that. They cared enough to really make this nice. You can tell the difference if somebody's dialing something in, be it food or anything, love making, whatever. You can kind of tell when somebody's not putting their whole self into it and when somebody is.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, and I think it probably ties in with the native aspect of your heritage of, connection with the land and all that, which, I mean, what do I know? But that's just my opinion. So I know you've talked about you've wanted to do some investigation too.
Absolutely. I would love to join your team on an investigation sometime.
Woo woo. Well, is there somewhere locally, like I said, because again, we're in the Western Kentucky area, Princeton, Kentucky at the moment, where somewhere here that you would like to investigate, or like say if we took a trip to Illinois, maybe Chicago way, where's somewhere you want to check out?
Oh, there are so many places to check out. I mean, even cemeteries. But I think it would be best to do it in the witching hour between 1 and 3. That would probably be the most activity.
Right. Which, I mean, it depends on where you're going. Anybody that's listening to this, if you're new, don't just roll up in the graveyards. Don't just, especially, just out of respect for the families, contact City Hall, contact the police, and speak with some sense and with some tact, and don't run in there acting like goons. And generally, you can kind of go, hey, we want to take some recordings. We're not going to disturb the earth. We just want to take some pictures. This is who's here. Here's our license. Here's all that stuff. We'll be here from this time to this time. And generally, they see that you're actually trying to be investigators and not creeps and being disrespectful. Which, as you know, like, especially bigger towns, a lot of times they have people that desecrate tombs or tombs, I'm talking like I'm in the deserts, or, mausoleums and whatnot. And it seems like a lot of times they have much better respect for people who come to them like it. So don't just go rolling up and being silly guys. But is there a location in Chicago that you'd want to check out? Like, I don't know. I mean, I know there's like Resurrection Mary. I know there's different spots. In Chicago, I've always wanted to go check out some of where the old mobster layouts were and stuff like that. Because you're from Southside, right?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know if there was some places that you know of, like, oh, well, I know there's a haunted bar down by so-and-so.
No, I mean, if we wanted to do something like that, I think it would be a good idea to research where the bootleggers used to be, because there was a lot of death in back alleys of stores. There's also...
Like speakeasies and stuff.
Yes. There's also the Underground Railroad, which helped the black slaves. A lot of times they got caught. That would be something cool.
That would be interesting, yeah. And see, that's where, like, if I went somewhere that had Native American stuff, I would definitely want someone who is Native American, because I think like, I would think they would be more willing to talk to a Native American than maybe me. Or if there was a place where there was a lot of slaves, I go lopping in there with this big, bald, white guy, they might go, nah, we're cool, because last guys we talked to was hitting us with whips. So if you had a guy who was African American or whatever, you might get more responses. I don't know.
Probably.
I don't know. To me, it would make sense. Just like, say, if you were talking to someone from the 1800s, and it was a guy, girls aren't going to come in there and be asking a bunch of questions. They might not even talk to him because they saw a lot of women as just property.
Yeah. This is a little off subject, but I do know that sometimes children ghosts actually try and communicate with me.
That's, I've heard that from different females, which is kind of, it's weird that for whatever reason women attract like kid spirits, but it is sort of a thing. It just depends. It depends on how motherly they are. What kind of experiences have you had with the children's spirits?
One of them was actually at my parents' place, and he came to me in a dream. It was interesting. He was in a boys' home, which back then was quote unquote an orphanage, which that's not what it was. It was slavery to the boys. They had no rights. They went hungry. They went cold in the winter. It was awful for them. The woman that ran it,
like child labor, forced child labor.
Yeah, like she'd farm them out to farms to do heavy labor, and then they'd come back and maybe not even eat, just go straight to bed in what I would probably say was a ticking mattress with just a thin blanket over them.
What is a ticking mattress?
I'm
thinking it's like full of clocks.
Full of
ticks?
No.
Oh.
Hay or straw.
Ticking. What does it?
It was the bedding that they had at that time.
And it was called ticking. I'm just trying to understand. Did it make ticking noises, or is that just a term for it?
No, it was just a term for it.
Hey, I've never heard of that. A ticking mattress. Cool. I learned something.
He wanted me to tell his story about how he was treated. He tried to run away several times. He was always brought back. The punishments were always awful. And I woke up and I needed to tell his story, but the pen and paper were upstairs in my parents' room and I was downstairs. They were asleep. I wasn't going up there. So I went back to bed and he came back to me. And he said, I wanted you to tell my story. And he shook his head in disappointment and walked away from me. And I felt horrible that I hadn't actually gotten up to get paper and a pen and write it down.
Wow, you suck.
Oh, thank you.
I'm kidding. No, I mean, you always hear people says like, I don't know how true it is, but you always hear like, if you wake up in the middle of the night and you feel, you think somebody's watching you, it's a loved one or it's a ghost or it's a whatever. I don't know. I mean, maybe, I don't know. I mean, what do they think you're going to do? How old were you?
I was still a teenager.
Okay, how old was the kid?
11, maybe 10.
So maybe they were thinking, well, you're a teenager, you should have this on lock. And you're thinking, you're a friggin' ghost, and I don't know what I'm supposed to do with it, and the pens and papers are locked up upstairs.
Right.
Maybe they just weren't getting it. They were thinking like a little kid, like, why aren't you doing this? Oh, my God.
Well, I spent most of my waking time upstairs with my parents. The bedroom was it wasn't a basement. It was an upstairs and downstairs. The downstairs had a cement floor. Very, plain.
Was it kind of like where they'll make a game room, like back in the 70s where it has the paneling and it's kind of got the...
No, my dad built this house with his own 2 hands.
Oh.
So, it was very plain. There was no carpet, there was no linoleum, it was just a cement floor. And the walls, we did have insulation.
Well, I mean, it was just a very Spartan
Yes.
home. Not a lot of frills, just boom, you want a house, here's a house.
Right. And the cabinets, he didn't build those, but he did cut them down and put them where he wanted. Like some of the end pieces on the cabinets were same material as the walls.
Now, was this another situation where y'all were doing work and then there was an appearance of a kid?
There was always work done on this house. The house was never finished.
Well, how often did you see that kid?
Just the twice, that one night.
Okay. And did you see other spirits there at that same location?
I started to wonder, and I asked my mother if she ever found red brick when trying to do the garden or anything, tilling the ground, and she did. She come across red brick sometimes.
Which, I mean, what does that got to do with?
Because that was what the building was made out of. The orphanage was red brick.
Oh, so you seen the orphanage in your mind?
I saw it through his eyes.
Oh, okay. Well, that's weird. So you were like reliving an experience. It wasn't even so much like you're walking with him. You're like physically seeing his experiences through his eyes.
Right, kind of like, and this is years and years later where this movie had come out, Ghost Ship. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with the Ghost Ship movie. It's got a little girl that's a ghost, and she takes the hand of one of the crew workers, which is a female, and shows her through her eyes what happened that night that she died. There's no words. It's just a reliving what she went through. And the woman got to see it because she was being touched by the ghost. He didn't physically touch my hand or anything, but he took me to where he'd lived his time.
Well, beyond that, did you ever have a situation where you were touched by a ghost or pushed or shoved or something touch your hair or anything like that?
I believe I was kicked once.
Kicking ghost?
Yes.
Little girl?
Little boy.
Oh, mean-ass little boy, it sounds like. Why did he kick you?
He wanted me to know he was there and I was doing homework and I told him to go away and he kicked me.
So little brother crap. More or less.
Kind of. He just wanted to be acknowledged.
Okay. So what'd you say? Leave me alone, twerp.
No, I said, look, I've got homework. I'm going to get in trouble. I know you want me to talk to you or whatever. I said, I cannot right now.
Did it help you with your algebra?
No.
Man, I so could have used a ghost that was good at math when I was in school. No good. No good at all. Okay, so let's talk about, all right, you've talked about you want to learn a little bit more about stuff like that. Now, I know you paint as well, right?
Yes.
Now, do you ever do automatic writing or just kind of like work on a pad? And
I have been curious about that. I have never actually done it. However, it's weird. I can sometimes close my eyes and draw.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I know whenever I paint something or more likely charcoal, I'll get the pad and it's just, I'm not drawing on it, but I kind of go in a circle and I just kind of, it's almost like I'm looking out past the paper. It sounds really dopey and artsy, and I'll kind of get like, maybe there's a little bit of a shadow to the paper, and I go, well, I'm kind of getting this kind of depth or this sort of imagery, and then I end up drawing it, But I don't know if that would be considered automatic writing.
I think it's a form of communication.
I don't know. Where do you think inspiration comes from? Do you think it comes from beyond? Do you think it's just a product of us? I mean, because there's been times stuff's come to me that didn't. I'm like, there's no way I knew that.
Yeah, no, I think absolutely when you open yourself up and don't focus on what's in front of you, you let, I'm gonna sound hippie saying this, but you let things flow through you. Your surroundings, your energy, then you're opening yourself up to what's around you spirit-wise also. And I do believe that they will use the human mind to get an image or a message across.
Well, I mean, I fully believe that, like more of the times of the spiritualist and stuff, the further I get, I'm probably less scientific method and more just gut and kind of open, just open to whatever kind of spiritual guidance I can get. But it does seem like that, like the ether and stuff. People used to believe in, like there was a force around all of us, an energy or whatever, and it all connected us, and it's in us. It's, when it connects everybody. Some people call it the God force. Some people call it just primal energy, whatever. But it seems like sometimes you can tap into that, or whatever can kind of manifest in some which way to allow you to get that information. Just like that thing, like, you almost step off into traffic, and the last second you kind of, for whatever reason, step back. You didn't know the car was there.
I would say sixth sense of danger, and sometimes we actually pay attention to it. And like I said about the energy flowing through, I believe that everything around, I mean, we're not the first ones here, let's just face that. Natives were here, Dust Bowl, all of that happened. There were several wars throughout the country. People have lived here and died here long before us. And I'm not saying the ground itself holds it, although I think that's part of it. I think the rocks, the trees, like if somebody touched it, not even needing a bloody hand, just touched it running in fear and then got killed from somebody else.
Right.
That rock now has part of their fear and their adrenaline as a mark on it.
Sure, I mean, that makes total sense. Now, I am curious that I know that, I'm kind of sort of an agnostic. I think there's probably some energy out there, but I don't know if it's a sentient being that created everything and, made puppies and snails and all that. But do you believe in some sort of religion or what?
I'm actually a non-active Pentecostal. However, I would rather claim non-denominational. And a lot of people won't agree with this, I actually believe that we're a lot of people in a small world, and give God, the natives called him Father, Father Earth and Mother Sky. They had different names, but I believe it's all one. Like there's Zen, there's Buddha. I do believe it's all the same thing.
So it's just different interpretations of. It's just like, okay, I have a right Twix. Well, I have a left Twix. So no, it's just a Twix. It's all variations of.
Right.
Of the primal energy.
And a lot of people might get mad at me for that one.
That's okay.
However, that's my belief. That's my thoughts about it. And I think none of us are wrong. He answers by all of those.
I don't know. I've always thought that, I forgot. I suck at this. I'm sorry. Someone had talked about more or less like hell is more or less of your choosing. You can choose to be in a place of suffering when you pass, or you can go on and learn and try to, whatever, if you're going on to the next life or reincarnation or whatever like that. What's your view on that too? Do you believe in reincarnation or?
I do believe in reincarnation. I think that we're supposed to learn certain lessons in our life, and if we don't learn them all, we have to come back and learn them.
What do you think those lessons are?
Oh, I think there's actually probably centuries of lessons. You have to learn to be poor. You have to learn to love each other. You have to learn forgiveness, and you don't always learn those in one life. You have to find compassion for your fellow human. Maybe not even your fellow human. Maybe the squirrel that fell in the water and can't get out.
You and squirrels. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I know you got a weakness for squirrels. Um, well, you probably never read comics, right?
I read Garfield,
That's
Heathcliff.
that's not a comic. I mean, like a Marvel Comics or DC or
Not a whole lot, no.
Daffy Duck and stuff like that, right? All right. Well, Thor. He when he come to Earth in Marvel Comics, his name was I think it was Donald Blake, and he was a doctor. And Thor was like this real good looking, big, strong, hunky, uber masculine god. And so Thor or his father Odin put him into a body of a lame doctor. He was kind of thin and had health issues to teach him humility and show him what it's like to struggle. And so maybe that was his way of obtaining something that he did not have that he needed to ascend or whatever. I mean, do you think that there's actual other universes around us right now? Do you feel that, or do you think it's more or less we just keep coming back to this one until we get it figured out?
Um, that's kind of difficult to answer. I do believe that most of our lives that we get reincarnated are as people because that's the majority of where our lessons come from.
Well, what about like, the native things of like, Brother Fox and all these different things? Or do you think those are just like elementals or something?
Spirit animals.
Do you
I
believe in spirit animals?
spirit animals.
Seen a lot of owls. I don't know.
I do believe there is a spirit animal for everybody. When you find your spirit animal, you're going to have a connection with that. It's going to be through the eyes, and it's gonna sound so weird when I say it, but like you can communicate just through soul.
Freaking hippie. Let me ask you this: what do you feel your spirit animal is?
The wolf.
Dos Wolf, the Lobo,
Yes.
right? What does the wolf mean to you?
I know a lot of people see a wolf and think a savage animal. To me, I see a animal that also has love for its pack, is nurturing to its pups, very protective and caring to its mate, and does what is needed to be done for its pack. And some of it is savage. The older wolves that slow down the pack may end up being detrimental, and I do know that wolves will attack the elder.
Chase them off. And,
yes.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Do you feel that you have attributes of the wolf? I mean, or do you think that's more or less that's like your spirit animal is something to kind of that you should have what you call I'm having a brain fart aspire for certain things like like we had talked a little bit off air before about again I've always kind of connected with owls, seen gobs and gobs of owls before, which that you can go down the UFO path if you want to, but I'm not going there. But and you had talked about what did you say some of the attributes of owls were?
That they're wise and curious, I believe it was. What else was it?
More like glasses, hang out with Pooh Bear. Love lollipops.
No. They love their freedom.
I mean, I know they're generally nocturnal.
Yes, they are. They love the night. They love the moon.
That reminds me, and I told you guys to remind me about something crazy last night. I was at my job, and I went outside to get a breath of fresh air because it was late, and people get sleepy at night, so I go out and get a little fresh air, and I like being out under the stars and all that for a few minutes. and there's like a pond, pretty good sized pond, across from the cabins from where I work. And I heard this commotion. I'm not going to be able to do the sound, but it was like it was almost like like that, and I can't quite do it because it sounds dopey when I do it. But it didn't sound like a bobcat. It didn't sound like a deer making noises. It didn't sound like a cow. It was actually really loud and freaky. And I tried to get my camera, and I turned it on, or I thought I turned it on, but I didn't hit. I apparently have to hit the record twice. And I was waiting there. I was like, oh, this is going to be awesome. So I go to pause it to take a look at it. Damn thing didn't turn on. And you heard me say, son of a bitch. You know, I was pretty upset. But it was loud. It echoed. It echoed through the woods in behind the pond. And that sucks. So next time you hear somebody go, well, there's a thing out in the woods, or there's a UFO, and I didn't. Well, why didn't you take a picture of it? Well, I tried, but I didn't. Don't give them so much grief because, damn, it just happened to me. I mean, I was kicking myself for it because it sounded extremely cool. It was scary, but it sounded extremely cool. Have you ever heard any things like that out in the woods? Have you encountered Bigfoot or was it the Yahoo? How's it Canadian or not the Cherokee call like Bigfoot? Because I know Daniel Boone called them Yahoos. But there's a Cherokee word.
The Yowie?
Is that how it's pronounced?
It's a Yowie, but I don't know what the Cherokee called it.
It was like was almost like a Yahoo or a Yahoo. I'm butchering it. Okay, anybody that's Cherokee, please feel free, or someone who knows Cherokee, or someone that owns a Jeep Cherokee, contact me and let me know if you're watching this on YouTube. Let me know. I probably should have said it at the advent of the show. You're probably listening to this either on Spotify, you may be listening to it on iTunes, a whole lot of different stuff, SoundCloud, or on YouTube, or on Para UK Radio, which is these folks in England who are kind enough to carry the show, and we are in their debt. But you were saying?
Yes, there was one time that I was taking my scooter, which I used to ride around all over the place.
Only the coolest people have scooters.
Shine. Didn't matter. I was riding it to Eddyville and going to the lakes, taking back country roads, and I passed something, and it just out of the ordinary. I didn't quite make out what it was because I was already past it before I registered. It was something interesting to look at. So I'm watching it in the rear view mirror going, what was that? Was that a tree? What was it? And
so, I mean, I know what you're saying, where you go, it's like your brain registers it, but it takes a second for the conscious brain to go, okay, I know I saw something, but I don't know what it was.
Right. Well, I continued watching it in the rear view. My right rear view mirror, I saw it on two legs start to cross the street.
Mm-hmm.
And it crossed the yellow line, and I had to watch it in my left rear view and disappear down the other side, down the hill. It was on two legs, and it was in the middle of summer. It was almost the color of wheat.
Okay, well, as I was going to ask you, what kind of gait did it have? You know what I mean? Was it kind of just walking across? Did it do that weird kind of loppy, like you see in the Bigfoot Patterson film, where it's got that weird kind of ape-like gait?
It was men. It was like confident walk, straight up.
So
one foot in front of the other, swinging the arms. No, it wasn't in a hurry.
Was it doing the thing where it's kind of moving the shoulders back and forth as it walked, or just walking hey, I'm cutting across the thing?
Just walked straight across, but this thing was a lot taller than any person that I'd ever seen. I actually thought it was a tree before it started moving, and I watched it walk in the middle of summer.
Well, let's get a little perspective. Was it say the height of a street sign, 8 or 9 foot tall? Did you feel it was taller than that?
I would say a tall Christmas tree, about
a good
8-10 feet tall.
Yeah, that's a good size creature. Was it very wide? Was it kind of thin?
It looked like it had broad shoulders. Okay. It looked like it was a bit stout. but tall.
Mm-hmm. Was it
not
barrel-chested, maybe? Kind of just...
not. And it was covered in hair.
Mm-hmm.
So I always believed in Bigfoot, but when I saw that, there's no other explanation for me. That was a Bigfoot. It didn't hurt me. I literally passed about 3 feet away from it.
Did you have any warning? Did it make any sounds? Did it have a smell?
No, and it was quiet. It was trying not to be noticed, and I didn't notice any smell. But I was out on a country road on a scooter.
Right, but you could have been like downwind of it. It may have smelled you, and you didn't smell it.
It could be.
It's weird. So you said it was kind of like a tan colored.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe it was a young one?
No, this was not young.
Huh.
This was an adult.
Okay. So they had like a briefcase. It was on its way to a big, like a Bigfoot meeting, or how?
No, I think it
was
literally
bitching about
was
taxes.
just crossing the road. I don't know if it was going home or going out to hunt. I don't know what it was doing. Maybe it was just going to get a drink. But it was not in a hurry. There was...
So it sounds like my dad.
Like no threat of violence or anything from it. It was just...
Okay.
Something my mind recognized wasn't supposed to be there. And then the more I watched it, I almost stopped watching it because I was like telling myself I was silly. What was I doing? It should be focused on the road instead of my rear view.
Well, I mean, that's going to draw your friggin' attention.
Yeah.
And like I said, you don't think... I mean, where was this at? Was it in this part of Western Kentucky, or where was it at?
Eddyville Creek is out in Eddyville and Kantawa. It's kind of in the middle of those two. And
was it like the back road you can take in out in behind Princeton, like down by Princeton Pond and go out that way? Or did you take it? Because you didn't take the interstate with the scooter.
No. I went over by Circle K and down that road, and I just kind of followed.
62?
Yeah,
okay.
I just kind of followed along. I had my map pulled up on my phone, and I would check it periodically. I was just knew where my location.
You were just exploring. You were just having a good time.
I was headed to, and didn't really ever pay attention to the roads. Just kind of meandered there.
Well, that's weird. I mean, well, who knows? Maybe you were called there on some level. Maybe you don't know. Maybe you were supposed to see that thing, whatever it was. You know, maybe there are no accidents. Maybe there's no. We're all fated to go to different sort of experiences and stuff. Because I know I've seen a lot of oddball stuff, and sometimes it didn't make sense. But maybe because I encountered that, it prepared me for something else. You know, I don't know. You know, you have to. You know, are we under the control of some great universal power, or are we just hurtling through space on a freaking rock?
I honestly believe there is karma, there is destiny, and there is fate. There is your life. You have the right to make choices. Everybody does.
Right. Well,
but that you're going to end up where you're supposed to end up in your final moments.
But you don't think you have any kind of leeway, like of saying, okay, well, it seems like this is where I want to be, so I'm going to nurture this condition. Like say working with special needs people or something. You know, if you lean more that way, do you feel you'll end up in more of that situation? Or and if you don't, and say you decide to rob a bank, you're going to end up in jail, as opposed to maybe taking care of somebody.
The only thing I can answer to that is I think we're supposed to be born at the time we're supposed to be born, and our death is, I guess, predestined. It doesn't matter if you decide to follow God and be Christian and help people, or do drugs and fall in with a bad crowd. I believe that your life at the end will take a hard right hook or a hard left hook, and you'll end up where you need to be. Let's say, just an example, that you die in a car wreck. This is just throwing that out there. And it's around a curve, going down a cliff, or going up a mountain. Doesn't matter.
Okay, where's this cliff at? I don't want to go off.
I'm just
making me nervous.
Theorizing here. Okay.
How about I win the lottery? Why don't you put me on an island?
Okay, you win the lottery.
With a bunch of blondes. Don't push me off a freaking mountain.
All right, but you're...
Fine, going off a cliff, fine.
Okay. If you're a Christian and you're out there helping people, let's say somebody called you that night and you feel the need to go help them, be it your daughter, be it somebody from your church or one of your good friends, and you feel like you should be there to help them, and you make the effort to get there. It's a rainy road, it's slick, whatever it is, you go off the cliff. If you're that same person with completely opposite end of making your choices, where you're into drugs or you're
just not
a jailbird, something
right.
like that, like
right, or just a mean person, a bully, or
you might not understand why you're headed up this road in the middle of the night, crying your eyes out and cold and shivering, but still be up there, and maybe because you're on drugs, you see something behind you and you start running and then you fall off. Like you're gonna end up in the same place, same death, but different circumstances got you there.
Or maybe you decided to just stay home and smoke some weed and play some video games, and you fall asleep and you accidentally pull the game, if you don't have wireless, and you pull the TV over on you, something like that. That could happen too.
That could happen too. But if that's not the death you're supposed to have, you survive it.
So you're saying the death you're supposed to have is the death you're going to have?
Yeah, that's what I believe.
Wow. Okay. Man. Yeah. Okay. That got dark. Well, let's change the subject. Jesus, now I'm worried about how I'm going to die. That's no good. Okay. Miss Neecee is available for children's parties and suicide hotlines. All right, let's talk about something a little bit more upbeat.
Okay.
On the out. See, we got a couple minutes before we do that. What is something positive that you feel that has come from some of your paranormal experiences?
I have more confidence in myself because I don't have to sit there and tell people what I saw, or if it scared me. I have grown stronger by not being able to talk to people about it growing up. Because I know what I've gone through, what I've seen, what I've experienced. And whether people believe me or not, that's really neither here nor there.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, it comes down to that conviction of going, are you, a lot of times when you have these experiences, especially if you're small, it's like I always talked about, I grew up creepy. It's just the nature of it. You're not going to have certain experiences and not grow up and be kind of the Addams Family kid in the neighborhood or whatever, that's just a side effect of it. You're not going to be sweating as much about, if I'm going to get invited to Johnny's party, when you see some crying kid with a split in her head walking through your wall about 4 a.m. You got other priorities. But, no, well, that's definitely, if you get confidence from some of your experiences, that's a good thing, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Cool. Well, is there anything you want to say before I do this outro here in a second? Do you have, like I said, I know you said you do jewelry and stuff like that. Are you getting ready to do anything? I know right now I don't think you have a website or anything set up. Are you planning on trying to look into some local shops around here to put some of your jewelry and stuff out?
Well, that'll have to come later. Right now, I've just got to make as many as possible because you need to really have them in bulk. And none of them will be the same as... It's not mass-produced. It's not done by a factory. It's handmade, so every one of them will be different.
So every piece is a unique piece.
Absolutely.
Well, that's groovy. Well, Miss Neecee, thank you for coming on to the show. I'm going to do a quick outro, and if you'll stick around, I'll talk to you right after this. And thank you for being on.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Groovy. That was cool. Like I said, I've not heard some of these stories before. Like I said, yeah, Miss Neecee's, I've known her for a minute, and she never fails to entertain me with some of the crazy stuff she's seen. But you know, that's the thing. You know, just because you have different experiences doesn't make you weird. It makes you unique. But I want you guys to go out there and enjoy the rest of the sun or clouds or whatever. But as the sun sets behind the pines and the shadows grow long, make sure to check under your bed, in your closet, in your sock drawer, in your hutch, your whatever it is, your pie cupboard. Do they make? I don't know if they have pie cupboards. I want a pie cupboard, but don't be afraid, because there's fear in learning. So go out there, love each other, love yourselves, and until next time, stay scared, everybody.